This here is a butternut squash that I harvested in September 2022. It is now April 2024. So 19 months this has been sitting in my basement, and they are showing their age. I have 4 butternuts left. I harvested about 30. These are the last of them. What we're gonna do today is find out 2 things. 1, are they still edible? And 2, can we harvest viable seed from them? Well, my first impression would be that the seeds are still moist. This is all moist right here. It's not completely dried out. This core should not look like this. This should just be solid yellow all the way through. That shouldn't look like that. But you can see the moisture in there. It smells fine. I'll say that. You know, that all looks just totally fine. So my guess is, this outer rim is going to be edible. I'm not going to try and eat that right there. None of that. I'm not going to eat any of this guy. So the closer we got to the stem, it seemed to rot from the bottom up. So we're going to do this 2 days later, after we cut it open. So we're going to cut off the end there. Doesn't look quite as juicy as it was, but... So for how edible this thing is, I guess would depend on how hungry you are. If it was a end of the world kind of situation, more of this would be edible than if things are good. It's pretty spongy in there, but nice and firm along the rim.
Son. What you doing back there? Ketchup.
Well, it smells like squash. Truth be told, I don't like squash all that much. That's kind of why some of them, out of 30, there's 4 left. Part of it was experiment, and part of it is I don't love them. But we're gonna try it here, and I think, judging by the smell, it smells good, it is good, right? I think it's gonna be good. Tastes fine. If you really like butternut squash, it's gonna be fine. Texture is fine. It's kind of sweet. Tastes exactly like any old butternut squash would taste. We'll see. We'll give this a couple of days for sure before I post this to make sure I don't get violently ill or anything like that. But at least some of it's definitely edible. I have nothing special for storage. It's just my basement, which is about 55 degrees in the wintertime and 65 degrees in the summertime. I think it's really important that they don't touch each other. If you have a bunch of squash, that they're on racks where air can get to the entire squash and they don't touch one another. I think that helps. But all in all, almost a 2-year-old squash, still edible. How about that? So now it's time to see if these seeds are viable. I'm a fairly experienced gardener, and I know that you can save seeds. But in general, what you would do is if you harvest a butternut squash in September and you eat it in October, those would be the seeds that you would try to save. You wouldn't store it for 2 years and then try to save the seed in general. So this is a bit of an experiment for me. So for this experiment, I take seeds from 2 different squash and I use 2 different potting mixes to see if that has an effect. Some I just take directly out of the plant, leave the guts on it and all, and just put them right in the soil. So here we have the seed from the same butternut squash that are going into the jar here, and I'm going to wash these off, pull off all of the stringy stuff, get them nice and clean, and then put them in some potting mix and see if that makes a difference. The pot on the left has the seed starting potting mix with the clean seeds, and the pot on the right has the Miracle Grow with the seeds that had the guts still attached. These next 2 pots here are getting seed from the second butternut squash that I cut up. These are clean seeds that I washed and removed all of the stringiness from. And I'm just doing all of this to see if it has any effect on the germination rate. So next these go into the house and onto a heat mat, water them in real good, and cover them up with some saran wrap to retain moisture and heat. I set my heat mat to 85 degrees. I never would have thought it, but only 2.5 days later, look at all these seedlings coming up. So here we are 7 days later, and I can't believe what I'm seeing here. I honestly didn't think any seeds were gonna come up. Maybe one or two, that's why I planted as many as I did, because I thought the germination rate was gonna be terrible. But here we are a week later, and it appears to me almost 100% germination out of a squash that was stored for 19 months. I did not think that was gonna happen, and I am really kind of blown away by that. This has been really fun for me to do. I'm learning a lot. The seed starting potting mix versus the regular potting mix didn't seem to make a difference. The seed starting potting mix just has a finer grain to it, and it's easier for those seedlings to push up through it. But that didn't seem to make a difference. I did not plant these as deep as if you bought seeds at a store, as what the package would call for. I planted them about a ½ inch deep, and again, that is because I thought not many of them were gonna come up. So 2.5 days later, they proved me wrong. I gave them the best chance of germination with that heat mat set to 85 degrees. That really helps with your germination rate. And then once they came up, having a grow light makes a huge difference. If you plant seedlings and put them on a windowsill and those seedlings have to search for light at all, they're gonna get tall and leggy and thin stemmed and not be a healthy plant. Having a grow light that you can adjust the height as these things get taller, you just move the light up a little bit so they are not searching for light at all. That's gonna produce a really good, healthy seedling. Well, there you have it, folks. Be on the lookout for a follow-up video on this in about 4 months. I'm gonna upsize these pots right here, thin these guys out some and plant them this summer. So in about 4 months from now, I'll have another video where hopefully I'm harvesting the next generation of butternut squash here. I know I learned a lot in doing this. I hope you learned something as well. Thanks for watching and have a good one.